You've got block buttons. You live in cities of 8 million people. You have human resources departments, courts, and the ability to just walk away from a toxic person and find a new friend group. Now, strip all of that away. Roll the clock back 50,000 years. Imagine living with the exact same 30 people for an average lifespan of 35 years. There are no alternative groups. There are no other cities. You probably think the picture of a primitive caveman involves screaming or hitting someone with a rock over a bruised ego. Actually, the evidence says something completely different. The ultimate ancient insult wasn't physical violence. It was social erasure. In a world where temperatures dropped to minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit, an insult wasn't just words. It was a literal threat to your survival. They didn't insult each other out of petty jealousy. They were actively policing the group's psychology, crushing bad habits before they could get the whole tribe killed. And they targeted 3 specific traits. The first insult was stinginess. The parasite. In a hunter-gatherer society requiring 3,000 calories a day to survive the cold, withholding food was an act of violence. Calling someone a hoarder or a bad sharer meant you were publicly labeling them a biological threat to the tribe's 30-person ecosystem. The second insult was cowardice, the liability. When your camp is surrounded by 700-pound cave lions and dire wolves with 1,200 psi bite forces, panic is contagious. Pointing out someone's fear wasn't about calling them weak. It was a mathematical warning to the group that this person couldn't be trusted to hold a 6-foot wooden spear when the sun went down. The third insult was arrogance, the ego trap. Bragging was treated like a contagious disease. Claiming you were the best meant you thought you were above the group, and ancient humans knew that arrogance destroyed cooperation faster than any predator. But how far did they go to crush that arrogance? This is the part most documentaries skip. The romanticized noble savage is a lie. Our ancestors were ruthless psychological manipulators. In 1969, anthropologist Richard Lee documented a brutal practice among the Jew/Hoansi people of the Kalahari Desert. He noticed something bizarre. When a hunter tracked a 150-pound antelope for 12 hours and brought back a massive, life-saving kill, the tribe didn't throw him a party. They didn't praise him. They relentlessly insulted him. They actively mocked the meat. They called it worthless, too thin, or a disgusting bag of bones. And the hunter, he was expected to sit there, humbly agree, and apologize for being so terribly incompetent. Why? Because of an evolutionary leveling mechanism. Researchers realized that if a successful hunter's ego grew just 10% too large, he might demand more power, steal extra rations, or become physically violent. By brutally roasting his 12-hour achievement, they kept his psychology entirely dependent on the tribe's approval. The most common daily insult in human history wasn't meant to tear someone down. It was an engineered tool to keep the deadliest killers humble. Because in a world without written contracts or laws, your reputation was your only life insurance policy. Look at Skull 3444, found in Dmanisi, Georgia. It dates back 1.77 million years. This hominid lost all of his teeth, and his jawbone completely deteriorated. Yet, bone healing shows he lived for another 3 to 4 years after his mouth became useless. That means for roughly 1,400 days, someone else in the tribe had to chew his raw meat and tough roots for him, transferring the mush into his mouth so he wouldn't starve. We see it again 11,000 years ago in Romito Cave, Italy. A skeleton known as Romito II was discovered with severe acromesomelic dysplasia, a form of dwarfism. He couldn't run. He couldn't hunt. He couldn't defend himself against a 400-pound European brown bear. Yet, the bones prove he lived to be 17 years old. These people didn't survive because of primitive medicine. They survived because they had high social credit. They were well-liked. They weren't arrogant. They weren't cowards. They weren't parasites. A public insult, therefore, was essentially a tribal check engine light. It was the group telling you that your reputation account was running dangerously close to zero. Receiving a severe insult wasn't something you cried about in private. It was a terrifying public trial. If the tribe decided you were annoying or selfish, they didn't have to share their fire with you. And outside that 30-foot circle of fire, you were just prey. But what happened if you ignored the check engine light? What happened to the ancient human who refused to share, snapped back at the mockery, and wouldn't humble themselves? Scientists don't love admitting this, But the absolute worst insult a prehistoric human could receive wasn't a word at all. It was silence. Total, calculated ostracization. If a tribe member ignored the verbal warnings and caused too much conflict, the group didn't fight them. They simply packed up camp in the middle of the night and walked away while the problem person was sleeping. Being canceled today means losing followers. In the Ice Age, being socially canceled was called banishment. Waking up alone in a frozen forest meant a 100% guarantee of death by starvation or predators within a week. The ultimate insult was the tribe silently deciding you were already dead. You panic if someone unfollows you, leaves you unread, or makes a sarcastic comment about your outfit. They used insults as a literal survival mechanism to stop arrogance from destroying their only safety net. You spend your life trying to stand out, get praised, and prove you're the best in the room. They spent tens of thousands of years ruthlessly mocking anyone who thought they were better than the person sitting next to them. We didn't invent cancel culture. We just made it about our ego and forgot that for our ancestors, being liked wasn't a status symbol. It was the only thing keeping them alive.